Hello and welcome, all you little ponies out there. I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming at you with another episode review of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. This time it's Season nine's Episode 16, titled A Trivial Pursuit. And well, it's another Twilight Freakout episode as Spike is pacing back and forth because he needs to tell Twilight it's time for bed because she's been up all day over this little thing she has going on in the morning. And that is a trivia show that's going to be in the morning that Twilight has really been looking forward to, and she's won consecutively for twice now, so she's going for her third win streak, and she'll be the only pony to ever do so. But Twilight is already kind of ready for bed, but she starts to kind of freak out, asking, trying to answer everything like it's a trivia question for the most part, but she does eventually go to bed. I also love that Twilight's sleepwear is an old DJ Pony shirt. It's just like, man, I immediately getting like Marceline and bubblegum vibes, but I know there's nothing like that there. But Twilight starts quoting the rules the next morning to Spike so he can get all caught up in his trivia knowledge for the most part. She's also charted out all the various people who usually go for the show. So because apparently you're partnered up with various different contestants, so you go in pairs. So she charted out the strengths and weaknesses of everyone who goes in attendance. Much to Spike's surprise that they would actually pair it up because he really isn't familiar with the rules and all that. But we see that Applejack is there for it, Rainbow Dash is there as well, and apparently Sunburst has come all the way from the Crystal Empire just for this. But I shouldn't really be surprised. This seems like Sunburst's cup of tea, all things considered. Honestly, he's dang near just as nerdy as Twilight can be. And we also see that Fluttershy enjoys herself a little bit of trivia from time to time, as well as Maud and Mudbriar. A very interesting combination of characters, honestly. And it makes for a very fun episode when you see characters who don't normally interact that often doing just that. Honestly, that's my favorite aspect of certain storylines when you have characters who don't, act together too much, actually being together. And honestly, Maud is like the best pony when it comes to just comedy and just a fun time. The dry wit humor is always fun. But a cog in the wheel shows up when Pinkie Pie is actually going to be in today's festivities, which actually throw off all of Twilight's calculations, as she didn't account for Pinkie Pie. She doesn't know Pinkie Pie's strengths and weaknesses, or even, if she's capable of doing things correctly. We also see that our master of ceremonies is in fact Granny Smith, who pulls all the it gets things started by pulling all the various names from the bowl to have everything just underway for the most part. It's very interesting just to see this. I would never have thought that Granny Smith would be in charge of something like this. But we also see that because Applejack and Rainbow Dash are on opposing teams, they end up being a hindrance to themselves, to each other, honestly, more than anything else. Together, they're unstoppable. Apart, they have such this rivalry that's always been going on, and it just continues. I think it's just because Applejack is one of the few ponies who don't put up with Rainbow Dash's stubborn, prideful nature. We also see that when Maud and Mudbriar are constantly put together for the third time in a row, apparently, they become a little bit too unstoppable. And much to Twilight's dismay, she ends up being put on the same team as Pinkie Pie. But Twilight takes it in stride, saying that all things considered, Pinkie Pie can't be too bad, and she'll just pick up the slack for anything that Pinkie Pie misses. Spike also volunteers to be the scorekeeper, but Sunburst kind of advised against it a little bit just because apparently, and I was actually wondering why she wasn't involved with this. Starlight apparently was the scorekeeper previously, but the scorekeeping got so hectic and out of control that you can't even mention trivia around her or she freaks out. It's just like, man, that must have been something. But the game gets underway. Applejack and Rainbow Dash are immediately at each other's throats, and unfortunately, Pinkie Pie, while answering questions, she gives vague and just kind of, not quite accurate answers, which ends up actually losing them points, showing that you can get negative points. Kind of like Jeopardy, when you answer something wrong, you end up losing your totals and all that, which Pinkie Pie feels very bad about. But, Twilight tells her, just sit still and I'll answer everything. But after a while, it looks like Twilight isn't really able to keep up with everything or answer every question. In certain questions, you get people arguing over, with Rainbow Dash even accusing collaboration between Granny Smith and Applejack when it comes to a question about apples. And when Twilight tries to get Pinkie Pie to answer it to show that she's capable of it, Pinkie Pie isn't quite able to answer the question, and the answer is zap apples, but, Pinkie Pie's just too scattered for that kind of stuff. And she even gets hungry at the thought of apples. And, ultimately, Fluttershy ends up answering it, and I love the stink eye that Granny Smith gives to Applejack, because she was too caught up with arguing with Rainbow Dash to actually answer the question. Man, this trivia night is something else. It is wild. But, Twilight is completely disheartened by this whole situation. And once lunchtime comes around, Twilight really starts to freak out at the fact that she might not end up winning for a third time in a row. But, Spike tries to reaffirm that, hey, you always do this. You need to understand that you're the princess of friendship. You've got this. You just need to take your time, learn, and understand. Look at it from a different perspective even. So the game gets back underway, but Twilight starts to just completely deny Pinkie Pie from even so much as touching the bell. And, she even goes as far as to actually start citing rules in order to get other contestants disqualified, calling out Cranky Doodle for sleeping, which is actually in fact against the rules, and disqualifies both him and Sunburst, which Sunburst accepts, but he just wants to. Sunburst is more focused on how many right answers he can get, if anything else. So a weird peculiarities of each pony, and so. Twilight even goes so far as to just kind of, hold back Pinkie Pie and just be like, don't worry, I've got this. And we all even see Angel giving Fluttershy hints and answers and stuff like that. So it really goes to show you that, a lot of people have different ways of going about this game, but Twilight ends up calling that out as well. They're not allowed to do that, and even calls out Rainbow Dash and Applejack for sticking their tongues out at each other. It really goes to show there are so many convoluted rules and regulations all over the place. She even tries to get Maud and Mudbriar in trouble because of just how stone-faced they are, but in much to her dismay, there's no avail in it. But when the question becomes about sticks and stones, Pinkie Pie fully believes she knows everything about it. So, but, Twilight ends up distracting Pinkie Pie and tries to answer the question by herself and just continues to keep Pinkie Pie from all the, rules and, away from even ringing the bell even a little bit. I was mistaken before. This time it's about sticks and stones. Before it was about cupcakes that Pinkie Pie could have answered because she baked the actual cupcakes. But Twilight just did not trust her in that answer, in that situation to answer. But here we have the question about sticks and stones, which Twilight knows nothing about, but Pinkie Pie grew up on a rock farm, so she should know enough about it. But Twilight isn't quite so certain. And when a Pinkie Pie does answer the question, she again has a very vague answer, while Maud answers the correct answer, Flint. So, once the, and Sunburst even explains to her, it's just like you can't have the answer be vague, much to Pinkie Pie's dismay. So, Twilight even goes as far as to ask Pinkie Pie to ask Maud about something about the actual category, which Maud cannot answer because it's against the rules, which ends up getting Pinkie Pie disqualified. And because of the rules, that means that Sunburst can step in because Cranky Doodle was disqualified, Pinkie Pie was disqualified, so the undisqualified ponies can join up. Much to Pinkie Pie's dismay, and the fact that she really was looking forward to being, partnered up with Twilight, but Twilight, kind of threw her under the bus. Very bad Twilight in this situation, but honestly, I'm not really that surprised by everything because, over competitive natures just kind of happen from time to time, especially for Twilight. She's just too focused, just too short-sighted in what she wants to really give Pinkie a chance and just have fun with it. So once the game gets back underway, we actually end up seeing that Sunburst, much like Twilight, is all about winning. And because Twilight hasn't really been on top of things, he feels that maybe she won't be able to answer the questions correctly, which we actually see she isn't able to because she gives kind of half of answers or not full answers, which Mudbriar is all too happy to call her out on. So we see that Sunburst is just as restrictive as Twilight, so Twilight ends up getting a lot of her own comeuppance, with Sunburst completely denying her from having any answers. And it even gets to the point where they start fighting over the bell, and ends up costing them points from a daring do question, which, Twilight's, well, I knew the answer as well. So Sunburst actually pulls a Twilight and actually asks her to look up one of the answers for reference, act that could actually get her disqualified, which enrages Twilight because it's just like, man, how could you do that to your partner? How could you be so thoughtless and heartless? And then Twilight notices Pinkie Pie, and they both kind of realize just how short-sighted they've been, and they end up realizing that Cranky Doodle's awake, so Sunburst can join back up with Cranky Doodle because Cranky Doodle will allow Sunburst to answer all the questions, and Twilight can rejoin Pinkie Pie in order to kind of make amends for how mean-spirited she'd been and just not including one of her best friends in this. So she's able to bring Pinkie Pie back in, but she has to start all over from zero because of that. But in the end, they end up not answering all the questions correctly, but they have fun, and that's what it's all about, having fun with your best friend. And we end things off by seeing that little Derpy there can't seem to get into the events, which is unfortunate because I would have loved to see her involved with everything, but it was fun teams and all that. So it was a good episode, all things considered. I know a lot of people are kind of split on it because they can't believe just how terrible Twilight was kind of being, but I'm okay with it just because Twilight kind of didn't get rewarded for being such a bad friend for the most part. She learned her lesson, and it's not like she will end up winning in the end, all things considered. Because, they're starting over from zero. There's no way they can really catch up. I really doubt it. So, honestly, Twilight doesn't get what she wanted, but she gets what she needs. A nice, fun time with her friend. And that's all that matters. Don't lose sight of your friends just because you want to win. I honestly appreciate that kind of a message for the most part. And that's the best kind of stuff. Just have there be no reward for the person who was acting in the wrong, but have everything work out for the best in terms of the whole of the friends. Not bad, not bad. Not the best, but not bad, honestly. If depending on your point of view. I know a lot of people were a little pissy about this episode, but what can you do? Hey, tell me your thoughts in the comments section below. How did you feel about the way that Twilight was acting? How did you feel about the way that, the teams were set up? Because that was honestly fun in and of itself. But not the overall best of the best of the best, just fun because of all the various different personalities clashing. But again, tell me what your favorite part of this episode was, or even the least favorite part. Get a discussion going in the comment section below. And if you liked this video, leave me a like. If you didn't, feel free to give me a dislike. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more My Little Pony Friendship is Magic episode reviews. And if you want to find me on social media, just Google Duuz-Diz-Din, or even look me up on the platform of your choice. More than likely I'm there, up to no good, as per usual. And until the next video, just remember that winning isn't everything. Sometimes just having fun and enjoying yourself is what really makes your time stand out, what really benefits you in the long run. Short-sightedness only gets you so far. And until next time, I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm going to bed. Bye-bye.